Hi everybody, it's Monique here. Welcome to my kitchen. Tonight's live stream is a little bit different. There's no cooking demo. Tonight I'm going to share with you the real true story of how I've lost more than 40 kilos in weight. In fact, how I lost over 70 kilos in weight, how I put back on a whole lot of kilos and all the things I did wrong throughout my last 25 years of dieting history, and what I've done to rectify that and rectify the damage I did to my body during that time as well. I am really excited to share this with you. I'm a little nervous, to be fair, because you're going to hear everything. I'm completely unplugged tonight. This is nuts and bolts, everything, right back to the core of how my journey in weight loss started. And it's the first time really that I'm sharing the whole kind of the unplugged version of my journey with you. Tonight, you're going to be in a position where you may need to take some notes as well as you're watching this stream. And later on, if you join the stream later on as well, come back to the beginning and start from the very beginning, because you're going to hear the whole journey and you're going to get a lot of really valuable information and a few myths busted tonight as well. But remember, this is my experience, and my experience is going to be different from somebody else's experience. So the first thing I can tell you before we even begin is that if you're going on a journey of transformation and weight loss, every journey is completely unique. Your journey of weight loss is uniquely yours, and all I'm going to share tonight are the tips and tricks that didn't work for me, and the things that you may read on the internet, which through my research and my study are incorrect. And I will fight till my dying day to back up those philosophies and those beliefs, because there's a lot of science behind what I'm going to talk to you about. We're not going to go real deep into the science tonight. We're going to start from the real grassroots. And if you are, I've got my phone here. So hi Matty, love you too. Fiona McDonald, hello to you. Everybody who's watching, feel free to send in questions and I will offer the best advice and expertise I can around what I know about this crazy, incredible, wonderful, life-changing journey I've been on. Now, there's also a transcript of tonight's information. I've got that here, so I'm going to be reading notes from my iPad. Now, if you've got any questions at all, again, send them through, and I'm happy to print this up and put this into my Facebook group or put this online if you want to read the actual notes as well, because it might give you some insight. Okay. So here we go. First screen, how I lost weight. This is the real story. And I want to show you first of all, I'll show you the first image. This was me when I was 10 years of age. So there you go. I was 10. I was already wearing size 12 clothing. That's me. That's my mum in the middle. Please don't tell her I shared this photo because she will absolutely kill me. And that's my cousin Nicole, who's like my little sister. So at that stage, Nicole was about 3. So yeah, I would have been about 10. I'm 7 years older. Oh, hello. Hi, Lynn. Nice to see you tonight. Wearing size 12 adults clothing at that stage. So that was in my last years of primary school right there. Now, my mum is 5 foot tall, so you can see I was pretty tall as a kid. And the one thing I can tell you about my weight loss journey is sometimes your genes are not very cruel. So we're going to come back to the studio and I'm going to tell you a quick story about my background. So my father, Morris Bradley, was a naturopath and a homeopath and a healer. So he always believed that we should let food be our medicine. So foods like, you know, ginger, chilies are amazing, turmeric, all these things that I've actually been cooking in the kitchen with today. This is the medicine we should be incorporating into our diet, and I'm going to delve into that a little bit more for you. My father was 6'3". He was really tall. My mum is a curvy woman as well. So really genetically, I had a few issues stacked against me. Now, by the time I was 18 months old, I was an abnormally tall child. So I was really tall. I was extremely overweight. So I was morbidly obese as a child. And at 18 months, I still wasn't walking, but I could speak in sentences because, you know, we all develop differently. However, the doctors at the time made me go into the hospital. So I was 18 months old and they scanned my brain because they thought there was something wrong with my pituitary and my thyroid, and they wanted to do tests to make sure that I wasn't, in their words, retarded. That actually happened. Now, when I came out of that brain scan, the doctors actually looked at my parents, and this is a true story. So we're talking 1974. The doctors looked at my parents and they said, we understand what's going on here. Elephants don't make mice. Now, if you did that today, you would sue that doctor. Like if that happened to you, you would get sued. You know what I mean? That's actually what happened. So I guess what the doctors were trying to say in a very un-PC way is that I had my genetics stacked against me. What I've learnt through the research I've done over particularly the last 6 months to a year of my journey, is there are ways that we can work with our genes to help our bodies work optimally and to lose the excess weight that we're carrying. So do keep watching, because I'm going to share all those details with you. Hi Michael Irwin, and hi Jamie Naybert. Good to see you guys as well. When I was at school, I had a lot of fun at school. I was pretty popular. I had a good time. I knew everybody. I was in performing arts, and my parents actually got me into performing arts because I didn't have a lot of confidence. So I was really badly bullied for being the fat kid at school, and it was pretty awful. And for me, when I felt really sad, I would emotional eat. So, you know, after school, a McDonald's quarter pounder meal was a good afternoon snack. Now, please note, my parents are not to blame for this. These were my choices. You know, I was a teenager eating that sort of food. And in fact, every time I was upset, I would choose to eat chocolate. I would choose to eat chippies. These were my choices. I don't blame anybody else for my choices. My mum's a cooking teacher, so she's very much into educating people about choosing healthy options. And that's why I'm not blaming anyone for this. This was my journey. Over that time, I also, to deal with how I felt about myself, I developed jokes about being the funny fat girl and became this larger than life personality at school. And for some of you who are watching who went to school with me, you'll know the kind of person that I have been, and I love that part of my personality, the extrovert part. However, during that part of my life, I can tell you right now, that was covering up the unhappiness I felt about myself. And I really want to be straight up with you guys about that. I loved a lot of processed food. And if you think about, you know, that whole saying that we are what we eat, the more processed food you eat, think about what that's doing to your body. The more chemicals you put into your body, how is that affecting your health? If a food is defined on the back of a packet with a number, is that food? No, it's not. That's chemicals you're putting into your body. And how is that affecting your health? Get rid of them immediately. That's my first note for the night. And what that journey did, that journey of unhealthy eating, not feeling great about myself, emotional eating, even the effects of stress, that led me to this image you guys are going to see right now. This is me at the age of 19, and I was doing a show for Newlands New Players. Shout out to a wonderful theatre company in Wellington, in Newlands, where I played Toad of Toad Hall. Now, I've had people look at that image of me even just a few years ago going, oh, wow, it's good to see, you know, a costume with lots of padding in there. There is no padding in there. That, my friends, is my body in a jacket. The pants were quite fitted at the top as well, not that you can see the pants. That's me at 110 kilos in weight. That's me pretty darn unhappy. I was grieving as well, so that was probably about 2 weeks after the unveiling of my father's headstone. So he passed away when I was 18, and I really suffered with the effects of that, like anybody does when they lose somebody close to them that they love. The effects of stress can really affect our weight as well. And again, there's science behind all of this, which we're going to talk about too. Around that time as well, I would do things like I would go to Pizza Hut. Loved Pizza Hut, so good. And I didn't realize that all you could eat was not a challenge. But I would literally eat myself stupid. So I would sit down and devour an entire large pizza all by myself. Hawaiian was my food of choice. Now, a little bit of pizza is kind of okay, but when you eat a whole one by yourself, it's loaded with fat, and my philosophy on fat is good fats are good for you, by the way. Loads of carbohydrates, which, you know, lots of white flour in the base. Love cheese, but too much of it is not great. And I remember this one particular time that I went to Pizza Hut, I ate so much, and I ate lasagna, and they had spaghetti bolognese on there as well, and I ate chips, and I had ice cream. And when I came home, because of all this food in my stomach, I felt so awful, and it actually triggered my first anxiety attack. So I had a panic attack. Now, I didn't know what a panic attack was at that stage, and it really freaked me out. So for me, that panic attack was heart palpitations, terrible chest pain and stomach pain, which I realize now was linked to indigestion as well. And just, I had the sweats, and I absolutely panicked, thinking that there was something wrong with my heart and that I was going to die. So in that one moment, I made a conscious choice to do something different. So I was 19 and a half, 20, and everything changed. And I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of gal, and I went, instead of eating everything I could eat, I did a whole lot of research, and I learnt about basically how to go on a low calorie diet. Except I didn't do it very safely, and I became incredibly obsessed with it. And over a series of months, I started to lose weight, but I did it the wrong way. And that's why I really wanted to talk with you guys about this as well. I actually started to starve myself quite substantially, and it did become an obsession that haunted me for around 20 years. So I starved myself, and in 8 months, I went from 110 kilos to 42 kilos. Now, I went from wearing triple XL clothing to wearing children's clothing in 8 months. I had people that I knew well who didn't even recognize me. So I looked completely different. Now, a lot of people have messaged me going, but losing all that weight, that must have been great. What is that, like 70 kilos? That's incredible, you've done so well. I actually did a huge amount of damage to my body at that time. What happens when you starve yourself is that your body has to get its nutrition from somewhere. In particular, your body needs to get protein from somewhere to be able to function. So my body essentially started eating away at my own protein in my body. It started basically, I started wasting away. So I still had layers of fat on my body, but all of the muscle that was underneath was starting to diminish. And I lost a lot of my connective tissues, and I would walk down the road and I would literally move, twist funny, and I would put my back out because my connective tissues weren't strong enough to hold my body together. And I lost my personality, and I got sicker and sicker. Because what I learnt through this process too, because it becomes an obsession when you have an eating disorder, I want to share this quote with you. When you starve yourself, you starve your brain of the ability to make rational, logical decisions. And that's basically what was happening. So I got to the point where I wouldn't eat more than 700 calories in a day. So I might eat a banana. I would have a pot of skinny yogurt, like low-fat yogurt. For lunch, I would end up having 4 rice crackers with a little bit of butter on it and a cup of tea. And then for dinner, I might have a stir fry because I knew that vegetables had very little carbohydrates or very little calories in them. Or dinner might just be some bread. Whatever I could do to stay under a certain amount of calories a day. It is not the way to do it. So if you are considering a diet plan that has extremely low calories, please be careful, because your body will look for calories somewhere. It could eat away at your muscles, it could eat away at your connective tissues, who knows? Your body will do what it can to fight starvation mode. Now, the effects of that, and I'm going to show you here, as I said, when you starve yourself, you starve your brain of the ability to make rational decisions. So I went from 110 kilos to wearing kids' clothing. I was wrecked with anxiety. I had no energy. I lost my personality. My boobs looked like pancakes with a raisin on the end. You're welcome, I know, overshare there. And this spiraled from anxiety into a full-blown eating disorder that tapped on my shoulder for more than 20 years. One of the things that has actually really helped heal my eating disorder has been my experience over the last couple of years of actually learning to cook. Learning to cook has really helped me heal what was quite a scary relationship with food. So food was an absolute foe. I would think about certain foods and I would have a panic attack. That's just not a great way to live. And now I wake up every morning going, wow, what is the yummy food I can eat today? I'm so excited about this journey. So I'm going to share with you, and feel free, by the way, if you've got any questions, to feel free to share them in the newsfeed, because I can see you guys and I'm happy to chat about everything. So I went from 42 kilos and was super, super skinny. And then this is me. The photo on the left is me when I had put on a whole lot of weight again, because that is the downside, I guess, of losing huge amounts of weight really fast. So that was me at about 32. I actually got employed as a plus-size model for a nightwear photo shoot. So that was when I was in my early 30s there, and I would have been about 85 to 90 kilos. So I would have been a size 18-ish. Again, 18, maybe a 20, close to a 20 in certain clothes. And then I got obsessed probably about 4 or 5 years ago with drinking protein shakes. So I moved to Auckland during that time. So that photo on the right is me back down at 69 kilos. Now I got back down to 69 kilos quite quickly, and I did that using protein shakes. Again, I'm not the world's leading experts on protein shakes. However, you may experience fast weight loss using them. It's not a great option for me or my journey. Everybody's different, but it wasn't a long-lasting fix. And if you are looking at making a lifelong transformation, please, please, please take control of your journey, become conscious, and do the right things that help put your body back into an optimal state. Now, by the way, I know a whole bunch of you have just popped onto the feed. If you've just joined, after the broadcast, this will be free on my Facebook page, and you can watch it again on demand. But I recommend you go right back to the beginning so you can see the whole story, because this has been a huge transformation, and I really want you to see from the beginning to how I've managed to solve this problem. Okay. Now, a few days ago, obviously, I shared this photo. So I hadn't realized how much weight I'd put back on. So that photo on the left is me just in September of last year. I just finished filming with Ray McVinney. I've got one of my favorite dresses on, a dress from my lovely friend Jan from OBR Merino. Now that was a large, I believe, a large size dress. So that's sort of a 14 to 16. I have a large jacket on there, and I'm actually wearing support garments there on the left. So that's to try and hold my stomach in, because one of the downsides is that you end up with lots of overhanging skin. So I have had to wear a lot of support garments to hold my skin in. That's me on the right, photographed just, 4 days ago now. I had a singlet on and I put my jammy pants on, and I said to my partner Pete, oh my goodness, can you photograph me? I can finally see that my body is finding its way home to a healthy weight for my height and my size. So that's me on the right, a size 10 to 12, and I'm pretty darn happy about that. So this is the second time ever I have worn a singlet top in public without being shrouded with lots of overhanging garments. My stomach is finally flatter than my boobs. I know, overshare, right? But I feel like we're friends, and I want to be absolutely honest with you guys. And every day I'll get up and say to my partner, Pete, you know, what do you think of this? And he's said to my face, you know, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I don't think I would have comprehended this journey, because every day I either have a bit more energy or something has changed in my body. My whole digestive system has changed with the way I eat now, and it's easy. This way of eating is so easy, and I'm going to share with you what's worked. But first of all, let's delve into what hasn't worked, and I want to share with you the real story there too. What hasn't worked? Now, please do note everybody's journey is different. I'm not a medical expert. This is what I've learned from my journey, and I wanted to share those details with you. And if you do have any health-related questions, I am more than happy to chat via private message, and I can also help by referring you to experts who are healthcare people and nutritionists who can help you with your own journey. So, the first thing that I learned that didn't work for me, it kind of worked short term, but then the effects damaged my body, and basically I put on most of the weight I lost, which was, you know, a good 70 kilos. The first thing that didn't work for me was starving myself, or starving yourself. Now, I know that some people dive into intermittent fasting, and I've read a lot of scientific reports around intermittent fasting and how that can work for your body. I know some people who fast for 3 or 4 days. For me, that causes too much stress in my body. I have done so much damage. I now want to do a lot of repair, and I want to be gentle on my body, and I want to find my way naturally to optimal wellness, and I want to try and find equilibrium with my body. So for me, every time I would try intermittent fasting, it puts my body into starvation mode, and my logic brain I can't comprehend that. I can't comprehend that. Now again, I'm not a medical expert, But I personally choose not to do that for my body. I choose to keep my blood sugar levels at a really even level all throughout the day. I will have snacks throughout the day. I will have 3 meals and I eat really well. That works the best for me. So starving hasn't worked. Let's take a look at what else hasn't worked. The next thing that didn't work was over-exercising. Hello to Raja Chetan, who is watching us from Kashmir in India, by the way. Hello to you. So over-exercising didn't work for me. I got really obsessed with it when I was at some of my skinniest times in my life. I would put on arm weights and hand weights and I would power walk probably 8 or 9 Ks. I actually did a lot of damage to my body because I really pushed myself and it was pretty horrendous. Let me show you the next thing that didn't work. By the way, if you are considering exercising, talk to a professional. And again, I'm happy to refer you to somebody who is a professional as well, because I know a lot of people, to be fair. Okay, the next thing that didn't work for me, I've tried every fad diet. I have joined every weight loss club you can imagine. I've tried pre-packaged meals. I've tried everything. I have read every magazine article you can imagine. I probably own at least 20 diet books. What I can tell you is that there is no kind of infinite answer. The answer lies within you. It's about becoming conscious and learning what actually works for your body. So sure, somebody might say, oh yes, you've got to go high protein. You've got to do this, you've got to do that. That might work for them, but you've got to remember their genetics are different from mine. Pete's daughter, who is 12 years old, very tall, incredibly slender, she can eat carbohydrates all day. If you were here from the beginning of this broadcast, my genetics are predisposed to elephants not making mice. I will never be teeny tiny slender, not without it being extremely hard and doing a lot of damage to my body. I will find my way to equilibrium through diet and food, basically, that suits my genetic makeup. And I've got some tips to share, because if you're similar like me, particularly if you hold a lot of weight in the middle, there could be reasons why. So fad diets don't work. That's why they're called fads. Get rid of them. Find your own intrinsic wisdom. Your body will tell you all the answers. The next thing that doesn't work, because I've tried this too, diet pills and laxatives. Oh, Joshua Mason, thank goodness I didn't miss this. Joshua, I'm glad you're here too. Ashanti has personally sent me your live feed link from a Craigslist ad for a black couch. Okay, yay. Good, excellent. People are talking about the couch. Oh, yay, excellent. Lots of people talking about couches, excellent. There's no couch here, but thank you anyway. I'm glad you guys are on the feed. This is excellent. So diet pills and laxatives don't work. I've tried them all. I did a lot of damage to my gut. And in fact, using a lot of laxatives, in particular, you get rid of all of the good flora and fauna, I think it is, that you call all the microbiomes. I don't even know the science, but all the good stuff that you need in your gut to help you process foods. So basically, if you don't have that in there, if you've got rid of it all through laxatives, how are you going to process your food properly? Your body won't work in an optimal fashion, and then before you know it, you'll be gaining weight and you can't understand why. Diet pills, diet suppressants, all of those things, get rid of them. Learn to love your body and learn to eat properly. Now, protein shakes, I have tried that as well. I have done that. They helped me lose weight fast. However, I would warn you against using them. Think about eating well as what you can add to your diet. Often when you go onto a program which is just diet shakes and maybe one meal, and I've done this for years, so I speak from experience, you are losing a lot of the valuable food you eat, in particular a lot of the fiber, which helps with your digestion. You don't want to do that. A lot of the diet drinks out there and a lot of the shakes that you can drink, the protein shakes, are loaded with chemicals as well, and they're not good for your body. Remember, come back to eating real food. Real food has been around for millions of years. This is what our bodies are designed to eat. But here's the other thing. When we chew, so the act of chewing actually triggers enzymes to be produced that help us break down particular foods, or all foods. In particular, there's one gene that's produced in our saliva called the AMY1 gene. Now that gene in particular breaks down carbohydrates. Now if you are drinking a shake, as an example, that has a banana in it, which is really high in carbohydrates, if you're not chewing, it doesn't trigger that saliva to be produced. Your digestive tract won't activate because it doesn't have that action of chewing, and your stomach, the right acids aren't being produced. So all of a sudden, you won't digest your food properly, and that one particular gene, which is produced in your saliva when you're chewing, how's that going to break down your carbohydrates if it's not there? So all of a sudden, I know a lot of people who have been using shakes a lot, they are ending up with really bad acid reflux because their digestive system just isn't processing those foods correctly. So the act of chewing is really important. It slows our bodies down. It helps us be more conscious about the food we're choosing to eat, and it's super, super important. So yeah, be very, very careful, and remember to always look on the back of a packet, because one protein shake I was drinking for years, here I was thinking I was doing something really good for my body, and it had 30 grams of sugar in it. Seriously? 30 grams of sugar. That's way more than the daily recommended dose, and I was having 2 of those shakes as meal replacements per day. So be very mindful. Don't live off protein shakes. Okay, the next thing you need to know is basically what has worked for me. So I've talked about the things that haven't worked. I'm going to talk about the things that have worked. I want you to start becoming a conscious consumer. Now in marketing, because that's part of my work as well, in marketing, the conscious consumer is the person who would normally choose very consciously of the products that they would consume. So they're going to go for organic, they're going to pay a little bit more money for a better quality product because it's fair trade, things like that. In the food arena, when it comes to losing weight and regaining your life, becoming a conscious consumer is defined as that difference between there's a plate of cake on the table and your natural autopilot will go, oh, there's a cake, I'll have a bit of that. Good choice or bad choice? Well, first of all, there is no good or bad choice. There are choices with consequences. If you're like me and you don't process carbohydrates very well, that piece of cake is not going to be good. In fact, or it's not going to help me find optimal health. In fact, chances are that piece of cake will give me bloating, weight gain. In fact, usually by the end of the day, I would bloat up an entire dress size from eating carbohydrates. So what does that tell you? Become really conscious about what you put into your mouth. This is really, really important stuff. So have a think about what you're eating. And remember, it's not the autopilot who's in control. It's your conscious brain, which only governs 10% of your day. So if you're going to use 10% of your day to make a conscious decision, change your diet and let it be around the food that you choose to eat. What also has worked for me is actually learning to listen back to my body. So when I really suffered with an eating disorder terribly, I basically had no sense of hunger and no sense of fullness, and that lasted for more than 25 years. So it was really bad. Now my body will tell me a whole bunch of different things. So it will tell me when I'm hungry, which is fantastic. It will tell me when I'm thirsty. You know, all these things that us as a baby knew, and now finally I'm reconnecting back to that. So I'm listening to those signals. However, at the same time, we forget to listen to the fact that there are foods that fuel us. They're really good for our body, and then there are foods that inflame our body. That leads to puffiness, that leads to weight gains. In fact, I've got a whole bunch of symptoms that will show you if a food is inflaming you. We'll take a look at that now. Now, if you are having these symptoms regularly, itchiness, bloating, diarrhea, all the symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome. Now, I had these and I suffered for more than 25 years thinking this was normal. If you've got water retention going on, if you're having food cravings and then you're binge eating, chances are you're either really, really working your body hard and that it's dealing with inflammation, or that you're just not getting the right nutrients from the right foods for your body. So it's about really consciously listening to your body as well. Bloating is not normal. I've learnt this over the last few months. I've been working on a health show, just like this, a health web TV show. And I've learnt from working with naturopath Lynette Hill that, all these foods, react with our bodies differently. So it's really about tuning in and listening to those foods that serve us. By the way, foods that are inflammatory, so not inflammatory, I should say, are really good things. They're the superfoods. They're loaded with antioxidants. They're things like avocado. They're things like olive oil. All the berries are really, really good for you. Dark chocolate, green tea. All of those foods will actually reduce inflammation in your body. So even if you're sitting here today going, well, actually probably my biggest problem is I've got a bit of bloating and I've got, my hands get a bit puffy, or I just feel a bit puffy. I'm not fat, I'm a bit puffy. That's how I felt about me. Start with something as simple as drinking some green tea, and you're going to start flushing some of those toxins out. It's going to be really good for your body, loaded with antioxidants and good stuff, and it helps reduce inflammation. So things like that are really, really helpful. The other thing I need you to do, aside from listening to your body, is I need you to start becoming conscious about your stress levels. This is really, really important. And there's a bit of science behind this too, and I want to really share with you the science that I understand in layman's terms, because I'm not a scientist or a nutritionist, but this is what I learned about stress. Basically, a lot of people who are holding weight, like I have through the midsection as well, there can be a few different reasons behind it, but stress is one of the reasons why we hold belly fat. So basically what can happen is in times of stress, our body produces a hormone called cortisol. Now, cortisol is really important. It's one of the important hormones that we need to help us deal with, situations. What it can do, though, is it can increase your appetite. So all of a sudden, you find you're going for quick fix food, which we would see as treat food. Things like chocolate and chippies, biscuits, to give us that quick fix of energy really fast. Now, that can be a trigger that can actually affect your insulin levels as well. And then all of a sudden your insulin is spiking, and then you're getting used to it and you're becoming insulin resistant, and that's increasing your belly fat, and then we've got more cortisol going on, and all of a sudden it's this vicious cycle of our bodies just becoming naturally fatter and fatter, and we can't explain why. We think we eat well, an occasional treat's okay, but then we find through stress we're binging on this food because that's how we deal with it, emotional eating. It is absolutely reversible. And again, it's about becoming conscious. What are your stress levels like? A good question. You can consciously reduce your stress levels. You can do things like meditation. You can sit down and write in a notebook or a journal about your stress, and write down tips on how you're going to deal with it, or if you're in that situation, how you're going to deal with your stress differently. So that's something that's really, really important that you need to keep in mind. Also, another thing to help in that situation is I remove temptation. So while I have had really good willpower over the years, if I know that I'm going to be in a stressful situation, I don't want to have temptations in the cupboard. I don't want loads of chocolate in there or chippies, so that I know, well, if I'm getting really stressed out, I'll go straight to the cupboard and I will eat all this emotional food. No, I'm not going to do that. Remove the temptation, become a conscious shopper as well, and know that all the food in your cupboard, all the food on your bench, all the food in your fridge is food that's going to really nourish your body and look after your body and help you get back to optimal health. That's really important too. Now, something else that contributes to stress, aside from big life changes, getting a mortgage, separation, having kids, starting a new job, losing a job, all of those things, worries about money, lack of sleep actually contributes to your weight as well. So again, lack of sleep means we don't get all the processing happening properly in our body. Again, we end up with that cortisol strip around the stomach. We get that bigger belly, and we don't know how to reduce it. Start by getting some good sleep. That will help with your stress levels. I 100% guarantee it. I speak from experience. So all of these things will absolutely help. The other thing that I want you to do is I want you to develop conscious eating habits. This has 100% worked for me. And I want you to eat a variety of foods. So when I say develop conscious eating habits, I want you to think about what you eat every day. I want you to consider doing something like write in a food diary or a food journal and really make a note of all the foods that really work for you. Make a note of if a food has inflamed you, because again, every single one of us is so different. Our genes are different. We're going to react to foods differently. So what might be good for you may not work for me. And the only way to create your own lifestyle plan of how to eat foods that will serve your body is to become conscious. Write it down. Write down how the food makes you feel. Do that journal for a month and do some testing and then see what your results are. And then find those foods that don't work for you. Get rid of them for a while and see what happens to your health. That's the best way to become really conscious about your eating habits. Write down when you've become emotional and you've eaten something. Don't berate yourself, just become conscious. Remember, there's nothing that's good or bad. There's just choices with consequences. And the other thing I would share with you is to eat a variety of foods, as I've mentioned. And I have the way to remember it, PPF, plant is a big one. Eat lots and lots of plant. Lots of vegetables. Fruit, I always choose low carb options because I can't handle, my body doesn't process a lot of carbohydrates and sugars. Protein. You've got to have protein. Otherwise, remember, your body will look for it somewhere else. And it's really important to have some fats in there. Not the fats from the fish and chip shop. We're talking the good fats. We're talking olive oil. We're talking avocado and avocado oil. All those good fats that really look after our cardiovascular health and all the functioning within our body. Good for our brain. Think of those oils like tuna, which are quite, or salmon, which have lots of really good fats in there as well. So think about that. So eat a variety of foods. Remember, PPF, plant, protein, fat, at every single meal. Absolutely every meal. As mentioned, I want you to consider these things as well. Stop cheat days. Cheat days don't work. I'll tell you that right now. Cheat days turn into a cheat week because nobody has ironclad willpower. Cheat days turn into cheat weeks, turn into cheat months, and before you know it, you've gained a heap of weight. So don't do that to yourself. Just look after your health. Every day you should be eating delicious food that makes you go yum. Don't think that changing your diet means you have to live off salad leaves every day. I eat the most delicious food. I feel like it's a luxury. I eat like an absolute king. I have basically found the foods that work for my body. And I would say over the last 3 or 4 months, I've probably lost maybe 8 to 10 kilos. So it absolutely works by becoming conscious. And also I want you to, as shown here on the screen, I really want you to consider your carbohydrates. Now, particularly for those of you who might be in your 40s, our bodies start to change quite dramatically. So as we get older, our bodies don't, unless we're really, really active, our bodies tend not to process carbohydrates as well as they were when we were running around when we were young kids. So I really, really want you to consider what carbohydrates you're eating. For me, as mentioned, I am carbohydrate intolerant. So I basically have removed a lot of the external carbohydrates, so biscuits, pasta, bread. I don't eat those, or I produce a low carb version of those recipes in my own kitchen here. So I never feel like I'm missing out because, you know, often if we're on a diet, we often feel like we're either starving ourselves or our food is bland and we're feeling like we're missing out on all the yummy food, and that's what really sabotages our success. We stop being engaged in our diet because, oh, you know, it's not fair. We've got FOMO and, you know, everybody else is eating chippies and chocolate. Oh, you know, one little bit won't hurt. And before we know it, we're gaining weight and not feeling good about ourselves. So consider the carbohydrates that you put in your body. Chances are they could be inflaming your body like they do with me. So for me, as mentioned with the symptoms earlier, I had probably 25 years of irritable bowel symptoms. So we're talking bloating, we're talking diarrhea, we're talking absolutely painful digestion, just awful, even down to vomiting and things like that. I just thought that was normal, to be fair, because I was so used to it. I would have to leave lectures at university to have to go to the toilet. I would have to know where a toilet was nearby. It was just awful. That is not normal. Bloating, again, is not normal. So really consider your carbohydrates. And if you are over that 40 age bracket, You know, things change in our bodies. Our metabolism slows down and all sorts of things can happen. And remember too that it could be your genes who are not playing ball. It could be your genes that are really affecting you. And chances are, if you have tried every diet like I have and you've never found long-lasting success, your option is to try a change in your lifestyle. And this is really, really important to know. And this is where I guess I wanted to take tonight's show as well. For me, low carb hasn't worked, and I'm really here to support you guys. I'd love you guys to sign up to my mailing list, by the way, so you can sign up. There's a sign up button on the top of my Facebook page. And I have a private Facebook group with new weekly recipes, and I do a weekly live cooking class and a live chat. I've got some workshops coming up where I basically cook with you and for you, and you can get all the recipes and you can try all my food. And also, if you are really concerned and if carb intolerance has resonated with you tonight, send me a personal message and I'm happy to talk you through some options there as well. How I know I'm carb intolerant is that basically I get all the symptoms of inflammation after eating carbohydrates. So I feel really tired, I get bloating afterwards, I even get itchiness around my mouth. I get quite foggy in the brain. I want to go to sleep. I feel quite down. I get incredibly bloated through the midsection. And that's really always been the place where I've held a lot of my weight as well. So, you know, when they talk about body shapes, I've always been like the orange or the apple body shape. So I've always been extremely round in the middle. Chances are that's related to my carb intolerance. And it's got to the point where I've actually done a genetic test where they swipe the DNA from inside your mouth. That's at the lab, and they'll basically tell me how much or how little carbohydrates I can eat and how much I can have throughout the day and which carbohydrates are going to work for me. Now, the way it works is that in our saliva, as I've mentioned earlier, there's a gene called the AMY1 gene, AMY1. AMY1 is the gene that breaks down carbohydrates and helps them digest in our body, and they get burnt and, you know, all that sort of thing. Now, if on a DNA strand, I'll just explain it to you really quickly, on a DNA strand like this, I guess you could say, we have a certain amount of replicas of this particular gene on that DNA strand. Now, somebody who is super skinny, they never have to worry about carbohydrates. They can eat potato chips, they can eat bread, everything like that. No weight gain. Chances are they have maybe up to 20 replicas of that one gene on their DNA strand. And then there's someone like me who practically looks at carbohydrates and puts on weight. Completely unexplained. I always thought I was eating healthy according to the food pyramid. Turns out the food pyramid does not suit me and my genes. So if you have really struggled with your weight, I really want to help you. That's why I wanted to share my story, and I wanted to share with you what doesn't work according to my experience and what does work. This is not a diet that I'm on. I have changed my lifestyle to find my way to optimal health. And if you want to do that, I'd love to work with you. So please send me a personal message. I'm going to show you right now, by the way, what I'm going to have as my snack tonight. So I had a cooking class in here earlier today with beautiful Tony Narang from Kathy Organics, who was teaching me how to make Indian food. So I'm learning to make Indian food, low carb versions of my favorite food. And I'm still quite full from lunch. It was so satisfying. But tonight, I am having this delicious brownie here. So I'm having beautiful chocolate brownie. And would you believe this will serve my health? This chocolate brownie right here, I'll hold it up so you guys can see. Hopefully you can see, yes. Oh yes, you can, perfect. This chocolate brownie is loaded, it's a bit crumbly in the bottom, you can see there, is loaded with plant, it's loaded with protein, and it's got some fat in there as well. So this is a complete food for me. This is the first time in my life where I've actually been in a position where I can have my cake and eat it too. If you are seriously tired of dieting, if you have tried every diet plan like I have, if you have done damage to your body through starving yourself, and if you feel like crap about you, please send me a message, because I would love to share with you this way of eating. It is easy, it is super fun, and it helps me, it has helped me find my way back to equilibrium. So every day, I feel better and better. It's time for me to go. This cake smells delicious, and I'm getting hungry. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks to all the people who were in the newsfeed cracking jokes about a couch. You guys have made me laugh the whole time. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. Feel free again to ask me questions. And if I can help you on your own journey of transformation, if I can help you find your way to wellness, and if I can help you maybe shed a few pounds here and there, that's what I'm here to do. Remember, you can join me in a bunch of ways. Sign up to my mailing list. You can join my Facebook group, where we have a live cooking class, which is amazing. I've got workshops coming up, and again, PM me if you want to know more. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to Pete behind the camera over in our production room tonight. And I look forward to sharing more stories of your success very soon. Ka kite anō. See you again soon. Bye.